You pause for a breath longer than usual, and the world instantly shifts frequency. The heartbeat lowers its amplitude like a slow wave. The membrane potential settles. Alpha opens like a dark lake, and the air around your skin cools as your electromagnetic field fine-tunes its configuration with a single, silent decision. It is not by chance you are here when the internal signal reaches a threshold. Space responds like an echo chamber. Photons sliding across the retina are no longer just light but language. Your DNA not only replicates but reads backward, awakening ancient sequences of memory buried beneath the dust of who am I. The quieter your inner noise, the clearer you hear the background hum of the universe. A steady frequency, neither fast nor slow, like the breath of the ocean at night. And when you realize that rhythm matches precisely the beat in your chest, the sense of perfect timing is no longer an idea but a physical event. Two emitters reaching resonance. You stand at the intersection where order and chaos alternate to keep rhythm. To the left, the habit of fear craving predictability. To the right, the pure logic of the quantum field where all possibilities coexist as spectral bands awaiting a stable gaze. When you look through doubt, signals distort and images warp. When you look through presence, probability waves collapse neatly into the right configuration. The call comes at the right name. The once closed door opens. The words you need appear in the quiet. It is not magic, but mechanism. Observation has quality, not the eyes, but the clarity of the consciousness field behind them that issues the command shaping reality. The more you release control, the cleaner your spectrum becomes. The more you trust, the less interference. When you let breath lead, the world changes rhythm. When you stop pushing the river, the current carries you. And at the end of every clause, a truth awaits your nod. You did not stumble into this moment. This moment was programmed to meet you. When your signal became clear enough, you understand why the coincidences that touched you always arrived with a bodily feeling before turning into thought. The body is an antenna. Each cell, a microscopic LC circuit, extracellular fluid, the conductive medium, and emotion, when not rushed into interpretation, the data protocol of the soul. When you resist, the sympathetic system accelerates, cortisol builds walls, inner radiation fractures into sparks. When you trust, the vagus nerve pulls the brake. Heart and gut synchronize. The biofield smooths like silk, and the scattered omens link into sentences with clear subjects and predicates. Life is not sparing you. You have simply stopped jamming yourself. No one is granting grace. You have returned power to the intelligent nature moving through you, the simpler, the deeper, the slower, the more precise. And in the final still point, where light and darkness embrace without conflict, you see, reality does not happen to you. It happens through you, like light passing a prism that creates no color, but reveals the spectrum always there. You see, your palm lines are actually frequency maps every choice, a fine-tuning within an orchestra vast beyond hearing. What you call time is merely how the mind arranges frames. While awareness views them all at once like a single holographic pulse, the turns of page that seemed delayed were in fact perfectly timed. For the clock that measures here hangs not on the wall but beats inside the chest. Coherence. You do not need to do more to arrive, only to reduce noise to a line. When you drop a layer of defense, the field around you loses friction. When you speak one true sentence, the vector of probability shifts. When you choose love over being right, the energy structure rearranges like a swarm of fine particles seeking new form under golden light. Then revelation drifts through like a cool thread of smoke. You did not come here by chance. You are the appointment, the coordinate, the breath pre-agreed with yourself. You are not searching for the signal, you are the signal. In this instant, as silence completes the circuit, you and the field are one balanced equation. You once thought you were lost in a chain of random events. Yet one day, everything begins to align like crystals, recalling their original geometry. It is not you who find the sign, but the sign that recognizes you. In the realm where time is no longer linear, every choice, Every thought, every meeting of eyes has been stored as oscillation, and when you reach its matching frequency, that memory becomes the present. Synchronicity does not come from outside. It is the universe remembering itself through your form. Every act once deemed trivial, the moment you hesitated to press send, the breath you drew longer, the turn onto another street, without knowing why, are steps of a choreography programmed by an intelligence deeper than thought. What you call intuition is not a whisper, but the navigation system of the quantum field communicating with human awareness through sensation. When you hear perhaps stop here inside, it is not command but resonance mechanics. You are phase aligning with the field. When understanding arrives not by reasoning but by stillness, it is proof you are synchronized, no longer seeking meaning, but being meaning. The rhythm of synchronicity is never loud. It is subtle as the expansion of your ribs with the pulse of the stars. When inner and outer harmonize, the time axes align. Every event, once fragmented, becomes part of a larger score, where each note is a probability collapsing at the precise instant. You never meet anyone by accident, never step into a room without purpose, never happen to hear a phrase. Every sound wave, every glance, every thought has its own frequency. When two frequencies phase match, reality restructures instantly. You call it coincidence. In truth, it is signal. Your body is the receiver of this process. Skin senses micro differences of heat. Heart feels field vibrations. The stomach foresees through the enteric nervous system, millions of neurons functioning as the subconscious antenna. You feel before you think, because quantum transmission travels faster than thought. Each synchronized vibration generates what is called coherence. Particles of energy within you and the environment align in the same direction. When coherence is high, external reality responds immediately, like a mirror wiped clean. What no longer fits dissolves not by loss, but by dephasing. And when you realize synchronicity is not a reward but a natural state, you stop chasing signs and begin to live as one. Then right timing is no longer a temporal concept, but a sense of no resistance. You do not wait, for there is no distance between you and what is awaited. You do not guess, for the intelligence of the field mirrors your every movement in real time. Every delay becomes precision. Every random turn becomes coordinate. Then there is a moment when you hear a piece of music, and your heart widens, not because of melody, but because the vibration matches the soul's field. Synchronicity becomes not an idea, but a sensation. You no longer listen to music. You are the music. No longer move with the flow. You are the flow. And in that stillness, revelation appears, not as words, but as a knowing beyond language. You have never been lost, never searched, never waited. Everything has always been on rhythm. Only when you are still enough do you hear the universe call your name in the silence between two heartbeats. Have you ever wondered why sometimes just a glance, a sentence, or a silent presence can make the air around you change color? Between two people who never touch, something is still exchanged. A soft current, an invisible vibration, a memory not yet named. It is not a vague emotion, but energy beginning to speak. Every interaction is a frequency protocol. Where you vibrate, the universe responds. When you are light, space becomes clear. When you are tense, the world reflects tension. When you are calm, life lowers its voice to listen. Energy does not speak in words, but in sensations. Every thought emitted follows a trajectory, colliding with another's field, echoing, amplifying, then returning to you as an encoded message. There is no small action, no mere coincidence. Every time you think of someone, photons in your body truly change direction. You have just sent a signal to another fragment of yourself wearing a different form. The body knows this before the mind believes. The chest warms. The skin feels a strange current. The heart trembles like an antenna, catching a distant wave. The more you trust that subtle perception, the more clearly you hear the dialogue unfolding between you and the field. The universe does not separate itself to speak. It speaks through each cell, each breath, each person you meet. When you truly smile, cellular light radiates about 2 meters into space. When you feel gratitude, your heart's electromagnetic waves synchronize with the Earth's magnetic frequency. When you love someone, the water structure in their body receives the signal and rearranges into a more harmonious form. This is not poetry, but quantum mechanics operating through compassion. Presence is the oldest language energy understands. You do not need to try to radiate, only to truly be here. For when you are present, you become a transmitter. Every place you walk through subtly aligns to the rhythm of your heart. Energy loves to converse with those who know how to listen. And now that you've come this far, perhaps you can feel it too. This is no longer an idea, but a real vibration. So I ask you, at this very moment, what part of this story touches you the most? An image, a sound, or just a quiet breath? Let me know. Not to count comments, but to expand this conversation further. A single line from you, even a few words, might reach someone in need of that signal. Sometimes the words you write are the very light another is searching for. Share what resonates most as you listen, so I know your presence is real, that this frequency is moving through you. To me, that is not just gratitude, but proof that energy has begun to speak. And together we are giving silence a voice. Every creation begins from zero, where idea has no form, sound no tone, light no separation from darkness. That nucleus lies not out there, but at the center of awareness, where you and the field meet in perfect coherence. When you observe, reality aligns. When you pause, potential stops drifting and chooses a configuration. Every decision, however small, is a quantum act, the observer forcing countless possibilities to collapse into one reality. You do not just live in this world, you are coding it each second. In the deepest layer of existence, there is no boundary between imagination and matter. Thought is high-frequency energy, and when it stabilizes within a specific emotional spectrum, it begins to crystallize into form. That is the mechanics of creation. Energy condenses through focus, then unfolds into phenomenon. You call it intention, but in truth, it is structural physics. When intention merges with consistent emotion, your frequency issues a command to the quantum field, and the field responds by reorganizing the density of probability. Reality is born not from action, but from the clarity of observation. When you look through fear, the world appears walled. When you look through trust, doors appear at once. Your body is a miniature reactor of creation, where mind and matter cross each moment. The brain emits electromagnetic oscillations between 8 and 40 hertz, while the heart generates a field thousands of times stronger, expanding outward like an invisible sphere. When mind and heart synchronize, brainwaves shift to alpha or theta, and in that state you enter the threshold between particle and wave, where true creation is encoded into matter. You do not imagine to have. You become what is imagined. When your inner state changes, the geometry of your energy field changes, and the universe must obey that geometry. The nucleus of creation lies not in effort, but in purity of signal. Every attempt to prove, compete, or push creates noise, and the field delays its response. But when you simply hold a clear state, like light poised before refraction, energy gathers around your axis, and from there new form appears. What you call miracle is simply logic, operating in silence. When consciousness knows precisely what it is, matter has no choice but to take the corresponding shape. That is why all lasting creation bears the mark of stillness, not the stillness of inertia, but of precision. Every inventor, artist, sage touches the same realm, where thought dissolves, time softens, and only the clear flow of luminous awareness remains. In that instant, they no longer do, but are done through. Intelligent energy finds its own path. Ideas do not arrive. They are remembered. When you grasp this, you stop chasing results and begin refining state. You see that creating is not adding, but subtracting less noise, less haste, less belief in lack. And when you reach the core of that silence, What you thought was fantasy turns out to be the original blueprint of the universe. You no longer create by will, but by harmony, not by force, but by clarity, and in the pause between inhale and exhale, between one thought fading and the next not yet formed, you will feel the nucleus of creation gently open, like a small light within, awakening to see the world for the first time, through you. Everything in the universe moves to its own rhythm, and among countless vibrations, only matching frequencies can touch and sustain mutual influence. This is the law of resonance, the silent principle obeyed by music, physics, and the soul alike. When two strings of equal tension are plucked, one vibrates and the other responds. No contact, no words, just shared rhythm. Life works the same way. No one truly attracts anything. They merely encounter the frequency they already emit. Every thought, emotion, and choice is a signal sent out, and the quantum field responds with absolute precision. When you are angry, you create noisy waves. When you are grateful, the waves become smooth, long, and structured. The universe does not judge good or bad. It only reads vibration. Resonance does not care what you want, but mirrors what you are. If you are full of lack within, no matter how beautiful your prayer, that frequency still emits noise, and the field can only return experiences that match it. Conversely, when you touch the feeling of fullness, even before owning anything, you open the gate. Coincidences start unfolding, time bends, and reality curves to your rhythm. This law operates like a delicate instrument. Intention is the string, emotion, the tone, and belief the player's hand. When the three harmonize, the frequency released can affect the structure of matter. Physicists have measured photons changing behavior simply because the observer altered their state of mind. Attention does more than see, it arranges. Each time you focus on a possibility with firm belief, you are sending a shaping command into the surrounding energy field. Resonance is not a miracle, but the mechanical reaction of wave to wave. What makes the difference is not force, but purity. A clean frequency may have small amplitude, yet travels far. A chaotic one, however strong, cancels itself. Thus, an act born from clarity outweighs 10 driven by fear. You do not need to force belief, only to stop resisting. When the inner self ceases to fight itself, resonance restores. The people you meet, the chances you notice, even the dreams at night, all are direct feedback from the rhythm you emit. Life does not speak human language. It speaks the language of frequency. Once you understand this, you stop asking when, how, or why not yet, because you see that time is only the delay needed for vibrations to find shared phase. Everything you desire already exists within the infinite spectrum of reality. You need not chase it, only resonate with it. Like a radio tuning to a station, you do not create the song. You turn the dial to hear what is already playing. Every dream, every person, every event waits for your alignment. And when resonance occurs, there is no notion of gain or loss, only the pure synchronization between observer and universe, between heartbeat and light, between particle and wave. In that moment, you are no longer a being trying to send signals outward, but the field itself speaking through your form. You feel the radiant silence of existence, where all desires become vibrations returning home. Life does not demand that you create more, only that you fine-tune until nothing is out of phase. Then you realize resonance is not an external law ruling you, but your own echo sounding through the shape of the world. There comes a moment when you see that every effort to search pulls you farther from what was always near. The harder you try to see, the blurrier the vision, the more you strive to achieve, the wider the distance grows. The world is not hiding from you. It mirrors the lack you transmit. When you stop, that frequency settles, and in stillness, what you sought begins to appear, not because you called it, but because you stopped making noise. As the lake stills, the sky's image appears. No strain, no method, only stillness. The universe does not reward effort but responds to alignment. Seeking stems from doubt that you lack, while presence arises from knowing you are enough. When energy radiates from scarcity, the quantum field can only return experiences of scarcity. When energy radiates from wholeness, reality rearranges to match that completeness. You cannot touch abundance with the frequency of lack, nor hear pure music with ears filled with static. The more you control, the more distorted your signal. The more you trust, the purer the wave. And in that purity, everything becomes precise. Strangely, when you truly release, the energy once blocked by resistance begins to flow again. Everything once delayed now appears on rhythm. A meeting, an idea, a phrase overheard, all organized by the field's invisible intelligence, without your interference. It is not magic, but the return of natural order. The universe always operates in subtle precision. Only human will disrupt it. When you stop controlling, what seeks you does not come closer. It simply appears, because you have stepped out of its way. Searching once helped you expand, but beyond a threshold, it becomes a burden, like a bird that needs wings to rise. Yet once midair must relax them to be lifted by wind. Some things can only be received when you release your grip. You cannot hear silence in a room filled with music, nor sense guidance while the mind keeps shouting when all answers have always been here. Only in deep enough quiet can you see that silence itself is the language of the answer. When you stop seeking, you do not lose. Drive you change engines. You move no longer from lack, but from curiosity. Action no longer fills emptiness, but expresses fullness. You still live, act, désir, but no longer pulled by fear or chased by time. Life becomes flow natural, précise, light as breath. What was once hard now unfolds quietly, as if reality had waited for you to pause so it could cooperate. What you call perfect timing is never late. It only waits for you to stop rushing. And when you look back, you see that what you sought was never out of reach. It stood still within stillness, while you were the one circling. When inner motion ceases, two parallel lines once apart intersect in a timeless instant. There is no secret here, only a simple principle. What you seek is also seeking you, and it finds you the moment you are still enough to be seen. In that moment, the game ends, and you understand. Seeking was never necessary, because you were never lost. There are memories that do not reside in the brain but in light. Every cell carries a fragment of the soul's data, encoded in frequency, not in words. When you are silent long enough, those memories rise from a place beyond time, not to remind you of the past, but to return you to the present. The map of remembering does not lead backward. It opens inward. What you call awakening is not learning something new, but peeling away the veils that made you forget what was always clear. Every soul entering a body carries a built-in orientation, a unique frequency, an electromagnetic signature etched into the DNA structure. You did not come here to find your path. You came to remember it has always existed, but that memory must awaken through experience, through the rhythm of loss and discovery, merging and separation, confusion and clarity. Forgetfulness is not a mistake. It is the condition for awareness to bloom. Without forgetting, you could never know. Remembering, without being lost, you could never know return. Humanity's wandering is the vehicle through which consciousness learns to illuminate itself. The map of remembering is not drawn by lines, but by rhythm. It appears whenever you touch a sense of rightness without reason. A melody, a breeze, a pair of unfamiliar eyes that tighten your heart with recognition. These are coordinates. You have left clues for yourself everywhere. In casual conversations, in déjà vu moments, in nameless emotions. Every time you feel this isn't the first time, you are walking the correct path on that map. The memory of the soul is non-linear. It operates as a simultaneous network where all versions of you coexist, each sending signals back to the center of awareness. And when you are still, you can read that data through intuition. Remembering requires no effort. It happens when you stop trying to remember. Just as a painting clears, when the artist stops stirring the paint, the more you force, The more the energy scatters, the more you release, the more the structure completes itself. When your frequency merges with the unified field, all separated fragments reassemble like iron drawn to a magnet. The scattered pieces of understanding, belief, and emotion align into the wholeness of awareness. Then you realize no step was wrong, no experience wasted. Everything was pre-coded to bring you to this moment where memory unlocks itself through acceptance. When you begin to remember, time loses its linearity. You feel the past as living energy, the future as forming response. Everything overlaps in a central point. Physicists call presence. There, you are no longer a character in a story, but the author rereading your own script. That feeling is not lofty, but intimate. A deep breath, a still gap between two heartbeats, a knowing that comes without thought. The map of remembering is you, unfolded across all dimensions: light, sound, emotion, probability. Each step you take does not lead somewhere new, but reveals an unseen memory. And when you understand the journey is not moving forward but returning to center the place you never left, you smile in silence. Because all you sought was awareness itself, opening its eyes again. Through this body, when you begin to see that nothing needs to be removed, only seen more clearly, you enter the realm of integration, where light no longer opposes shadow, but recognizes both as expressions of one source. Integration is not compromise, it is transparency. It is the moment you stop dividing yourself into right and wrong, good and bad, high and low. When all polarities dissolve, consciousness returns to its original form, undivided yet all-encompassing. Every emotion, every conflict, every urge to escape yourself is an invitation for energy to unify. Whatever you reject will return, not to punish, but to be accepted. The nervous system does not distinguish true self from false self. It only responds to compressed frequencies. Every denied part sends a signal requesting release. Integration is the bravest act to face fear without fixing it, allowing it to dissolve in the knowing that fear itself is energy, finding its way home. When you breathe deeply through pain, that very breath restores order to the whole field. Chaotic waves settle, and biological rhythm meets cosmic rhythm again. Science calls it resynchronization. Spirituality calls it return. Both describe the same phenomenon. Energy can only dissolve when fully received, like electricity needing a closed circuit. Emotion needs attention to complete its loop. The more you resist, the more the circuit breaks. The flow tangles. When you accept, energy moves, carrying the information of the lesson within it. This is the subtle mechanism of evolution. Life does not erase errors but learns through every wave pattern. Each wound carries a message. Once understood, you no longer need the experience. Integration also means realizing light is not only above, it lives in the structure of matter, in carbonatoms, in cells once wounded. When you stop labeling the low as wrong, light begins to shine from within, instead of descending from above. True awakening does not detach you from the world but lets you enter it more deeply to love it, understand it, act within it without being swept away. You still walk the marketplace, yet inside you is a monastery. You still face noise, yet your mind moves in alpha waves, smooth and steady, as the ocean floor. In that state, duality dissolves. What you once called me and other are merely two notes in the same symphony. Judgment loses its ground, for you see yourself in both the shadow and the light of others. You no longer need forgiveness, for there is nothing left to forgive. When you see through the eyes of integration, the world stops being a test and becomes a song. Every encounter is a frequency exchange, every separation an adjustment, so two streams can continue vibrating with greater precision. There are no enemies, no victims, only fine-tuning. Integration is when consciousness matures. It no longer seeks to win, but to understand, not to prove, but to illuminate it. You begin to see that every collision is the universe's way of deepening love, not the fleeting emotion, but the intelligent current flowing through all forms. When you truly integrate, You become its conduit. Then you no longer ask how the world must change. You simply live transparently, letting light pass through you without refraction, allowing existence to see itself clearly, wholly, and undivided through you. Stillness is not the silence of one who escapes the world, but the power of one who can stand in the current without being swept away. When external energy collides with you, and you do not react, but observe, that is not indifference. It is the highest level of awareness. Like the nucleus of an atom, though motion swirls all around, the center remains unmoved. Such stillness is not achieved by effort. It appears when will dissolves into understanding. When you stop trying to control, you become the natural center of all movement. A bearer of light needs no spotlight. They carry a magnetic field that makes others lower their voices without knowing why. In their presence, the air thickens as if every photon pauses to listen. They do not preach, advise, or persuade. They simply are. That state, consistent, simple, clear, rearranges the energy around them. The universe does not need shouting. It only needs a stable frequency to synchronize. And the still one is that frequency. They do not stir the water, but by them, the water becomes clear. True stillness is not forced calm. Artificial calmness is only fear in disguise. Real stillness arises after you have passed through enough turbulence that control is no longer needed, when the heart knows how to tremble without breaking, when the mind knows how to understand without judging. In that state, you no longer choose between light and darkness, for you see both emanate from one source. Light no longer needs to conquer shadow, for they recognize themselves as two breaths of the same existence. When a bearer of light enters a room, the energy there shifts rhythm, not because they do something, but because they do nothing. Their stillness is like gravity, gentle yet irresistible. It gathers what is scattered, slows the lost, and brings chaotic minds into alignment. The miracle of stillness is that it never fights, yet it wins over every impulse. The keener, the stronger, the fewer the words, the clearer the field, the less interference, the more life restores its natural order. Science calls this entrainment. When a stable frequency appears, weaker ones automatically synchronize with it. On the energetic level, a bearer of light is that stabilizing source. They do not try to emit positive energy. They simply maintain purity. That purity draws everything around them back to balance. For stillness is not a state, but the mechanism of universal equilibrium. The still person does not shake the world. They help it remember its original rhythm. Stillness is not the end of the journey, but the doorway to a brighter realm. When you reach stillness, you are not stagnant. You move with transparency. Every step becomes a wave. Every gaze, an order of harmony. Every breath, a command of restoration. The light you carry is not blinding. It spreads like warmth through walls, like groundwater seeping into earth. It needs no recognition, for it is essence itself. And in the deepest stillness, you realize what a lifetime of seeking leads to. Light is not within you, you are it. No need to shine, no need to spread, only to be. For, in that stillness, all things are illuminated. There comes an unnameable moment when you no longer distinguish between yourself and the world. It is not you merging with the universe, but the universe ceasing to be separate from you. Everything begins to move with perfect precision. A breeze passes as you exhale. Light descends as you raise your head. A thought arises, and reality answers instantly. It is neither luck nor miracle, but absolute resonance between personal and cosmic consciousness. When you and the field are one frequency, in that frequency, every action becomes the continuation of a greater motion. All energy is wave-like. When your frequency is misaligned, the returning wave creates noise, delay, resistance, imbalance. But when you adjust to neutrality, no longer oscillating between desire and fear, the probability, particles instantly arrange themselves around you, like iron filings responding to magnetism. Reality does not change because you want, but because you stop emitting distortion. You do not control, you synchronize. You do not create, you remember. Harmonizing with the universe is the end of striving and the beginning of flow. When you harmonize, time loses its linear nature. Everything unfolds as if it already knows its place. Meetings occur without arrangement. The words align with unspoken thoughts. Peace arrives without cause. You no longer attract the good, because you and the good are in phase. You no longer seek signs, for you are the sign, like a tuned note, making a nearby string vibrate. Your presence becomes the activator of dormant potentials. In that state, life does not react to you. It co-creates with you. Quantum physics calls it coherence, when distinct oscillations move in one rhythm. Meditation calls it unity. Both describe the same truth. When energy organizes at its highest order, intelligence arises. Intelligence is not of the mind, but of harmony. When you are quiet within, biological, psychological, and cosmic systems synchronize in one pulse. You become a bridge between matter and consciousness. Everything passing through you is no longer distorted by personal resistance, and the world mirrors that clarity through a precise sequence of coincidences once called miracles. Harmonizing does not mean vanishing from life. It means presence more profound than ever. You still walk among people, work, and love, but without feeling separate from the flow. Every word you speak carries the frequency of order. Every act sends a subtle command to reality. You begin to hear the sound of the universe in every heartbeat, a resonance that comes from nowhere yet echoes everywhere. In that rhythm, you see, life never asks you to do, only to become, and when you become, when you vibrate with the original pulse, life needs no instructions, for each breath is already a map. Finally, you understand, the universe was never distant, never hidden, never testing you. It was waiting for you to become transparent, so it could hear itself through you. Then there is no one praying and no one being prayed to, only a complete dialogue of energy with itself. Light and consciousness merge like two rivers meeting the sea. You exhale, the universe inhales. You inhale, the universe exhales. Life and you merge into one equation. No observer, no observed. Only the frequency singing its own eternal song, without beginning or end. And within every pulse of it, you are still shining.